You are listening to the Unleashed and Aligned podcast, where we strip away the noise, unleash our truth, and align with our highest self. I'm your host, Felicia Dom. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to the Unleashed and Aligned podcast. I am here with Jana Dutkiewicz. She is a vocal alchemist and activator with a passion for helping creators and visionaries birth their purpose into the world. She channels angels and other beings of light to bring healing messages and methods to the surface. Thank you for being on the podcast, Jana. Let's dive in a little bit to your story and how did you get to where you're at right now?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's a lifelong story for me. I'm a vocal activist, and that means that my voice is my primary instrument. I've been a vocalist my entire life. And in my story, I talk about how that voice was suppressed, oppressed, made small. So many things that so many of us can identify with in terms of our ability to self-express, our ability to say our truth, speak our truth. So many of us are people pleasers, and that comes into it. We lack boundaries often. And that all plays into how do you speak? How is your voice? What does your self-expression look like? And as a singer specifically, the interesting dynamic there was that I always had the tools and the abilities to use my voice in a way that really spoke to people and really impacted people. But on the other side of that, I still had that oppression. I still had that need to feel smaller and not so loud, to not be heard as much as I wanted to be heard. And I'm sure you can identify, and listeners can identify with this on a myriad of levels, that we are told and taught to be smaller, quieter, less than. And for me, that came primarily in the form of religious upbringing. It's a really strict family that tells us, even if they don't necessarily mean to, that we have to be something other than we are at our source. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm a vocalist who didn't have a voice when it really mattered, even though I was singing on stages and sounding pretty.
I love the work that you do, and what you said is so needed because so many of us, like you had mentioned, are people pleasers, or we're not speaking up when we should be. A lot of us, especially like probably around my age and older, is don't speak unless spoken to, is a lot of things that we have been taught or told when we were younger. And I think that's so important because even now, even knowing, because I would love to say former people pleaser, but I see it show up still. Even though I have awareness around it, I still see where that shows up for me. I still see where I guess, either intimidation or fear of saying something that I want to say or speaking up on things I don't really know and raising my hand and saying, hey, I have a question here. And I just don't do it because I'm like, oh, it's not that important, or it's going to sound dumb, or all of those things that I have continuously been working on little by little, not doing. But I do catch myself and, oh, that's interesting. I'm still doing that. And maybe it's not as prevalent as it used to be, but I am definitely still doing that. So I think your work is so needed.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we do a lot of this work in layers, and we can come to a certain point where we feel like we're being our true authentic self. And then, like you said, stuff still comes up. We still have echoes of the past, or maybe a shadow of a wound that we thought we had healed comes back and gets us again. And I often find too that sometimes we swing, it's like a pendulum swing, like we've come from one side and we almost swing too far in the other direction sometimes, being overly assertive with our boundaries or our needs when we get to that point of finally feeling free. And really the work for me has been in finding that middle spot where I am expressing myself, I am asserting my boundaries, I am speaking my truth, but I'm doing it from a place of centeredness and alignment and compassion and assertiveness, but not aggressiveness.
Yeah, I love everything that you're touching on, and I think that it's going to resonate so much with listeners. So when did you realize you were playing small or holding yourself back?
It really came, I would say, about 10 years ago. Geez, it's a lifetime of not following my dreams, not believing that as a singer, I could have a career in my own passions. So there were awareness points along the way, even as a child, as a teenager, things like understanding that I didn't really know how to speak up for myself when it came to sexual relations and consent, things that I wasn't taught around my own sovereignty, my own ability to speak up for myself. And that awareness was there in points, but not in a deeper sense of understanding really how small I had become until I would say the turning point for me was, as it is with so many mothers, when we get to a point where we realize we've given so much of ourselves to our relationship and to our children. And I think that's a natural part of our evolution, is that we give to our next generation so that they can thrive. But we often find ourselves picking our heads up after so many years going, where am I in this? Where have I gone? Where have my dreams gone? Why do I always come last? And then we have to, again, overcorrect until we understand where that line is between overgiving and complete selfishness, and where do I come into the equation so that I can be well and healthy. And at the same time that I was doing that, I was starting to disassemble everything I had been taught about religion and belief systems. So it was really a complete crashing down of my foundations. And I had to be willing, and I recognized that on a logical level, that I had to be willing to undo everything that I thought I had been, my identity, in order to restructure those beliefs and undo all of that. So I would say it really came to a head about 10 years ago. And that's when I started to question everything and dismantle everything, look at everything from the very core and the very foundations.
Wow, that's such amazing work to do too. It's hard, but yeah, being able to pull yourself back and be like, okay, wait, what is my view on all of this? Where are my values and beliefs in this stuff is so important. And that's a lot. What do you believe that you had to let go of in order to become more of who you are today?
Fear of judgment is probably the biggest thing. And I would say I hear that more than anything else when I work with people. When we get into their fears, we get into their beliefs, their blocks, what's holding them back. Fear of judgment is so key. And I will not say that I'm over it. I still consider how I appear to people, how I sound to people. I don't know that we ever get to a point where we absolutely do not care. And I don't know that's necessarily a healthy thing either, because we are a social species and there is some necessity for getting along with your neighbor, getting along with the people you love. So again, it's all about balance, really getting into understanding my own self, what I wanted, what I needed for my own fulfillment with my own passions, my own soul calling, and then undoing what was holding me back in terms of how are other people going to care about this? How are they going to judge me? And really doing it for me rather than with a thought of how somebody else is going to react.
Yeah, and that's so important, and it's really hard work, especially if you're a people pleaser and have all of these past history of how you have really felt validated and accepted from others. And I think we all have, like you said, we're probably always going to ongoingly work on that. And there's going to be a little bit of it's needed, but also it's a lot, especially when you've done it for so long in your life. It's hard to let go of those judgments. I'm curious though, what advice would you give to a person that is trying to find their voice and not really sure where to start?
I would say the very first thing that I would be looking at is trying to understand what it is that you want. Because especially as people pleasers, especially when we maybe empaths, when we identify with this idea of doing things for other people or making other people happy or trying to avoid pain of judgment or somebody else has been made uncomfortable, all these things that go along with that people-pleasing tendency, the first question that we often don't even know how to answer is, what do I want? What is my soul calling for? What are my passions? And the way I like to frame that for people who haven't really answered that question is to ask them if there were zero limitations, if you could do anything you wanted at all in the world, if you could be anything, be anyone, be anywhere, be doing anything, what would it be? What would make you absolutely happy? What would bring you the most joy? And most people have a pretty ready answer for that. And for me, that was singing. And I'm lucky that I've always known my passion my whole life. I've always had some sense of purpose around my voice. And not everybody has that. But it really takes away the things that are in the way in our minds. And they may or may not be real obstacles or real challenges that exist. Some of them are, like, I have a family. That doesn't mean that I can just pick up and leave and go around the world and do whatever that my dream might be calling if I had none of those restrictions. But is that really a reason not to do it? And that's the deeper question. Are there ways I could make that work?
Mhm.
Are there things that I hadn't thought about? And when we come to that point of reframe in our mind where we are able to change a fundamental belief, and a lot of the time these beliefs are not really understood or known, they're subconscious, the belief that I can't do this because of that. And when we recognize that and go, it could be possible. There are musicians who tour around the world and bring their families with them and figure out their schooling, figure out their whatever else might be in the way. So it's possible. And as soon as I recognize that there's a possibility other than the previous belief I held, the whole world opens up.
Yeah. And I think too, it's when you start thinking of it in that sense, you're like, okay, what are some like micro possibilities that I can add in here? Like maybe it's not this huge tour around the world, but maybe it's like I'm going to start seeing parts of the world in increments, or we're going to start small with the budget that I have, and maybe over time save up for these bigger locations or what have you. And just going off this scenario, obviously it can be different for any kind of dream that you have. But I think that's really inspiring, and it's really encouraging to see, okay, this is my big dream, but what does it look like on a now like scale? What can I do little
Absolutely.
now to help me build to that? So I think that's amazing advice.
Yeah, we don't have to upend our entire lives to pursue the dream, but what can I do today? What's one step? What's one increment?
Yeah, yeah. So when you're feeling disconnected from yourself now, or maybe from your voice now, how do you realign that?
I literally just sing.
Yeah.
It's easy for me because my voice is my passion. I can
Mhm.
open my mouth at any moment and reconnect. That reconnection, though, because that is the expression of my soul, that's what I have to reconnect to. So if your soul expression is something else,
Mm.
you just do that thing. Maybe it's movement, maybe it's writing, maybe it's art. It could be anything. If you take the time to just do the thing that you love, you will naturally be aligning with your own soul without having to do a thing, without having to have a
Mm.
specific set of, I do A, B, C. I go into meditation for 25 minutes and then I do this for this minute. It doesn't have to be, it can be so simple.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be so restrictive or black and white confined.
And that might work for some people, and that's great. But I think we overthink it and we make
Yeah.
it more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah. Life. We overcomplicate everything. That's the human brain for you. I love that though, to simplify it. And like you said, we overthink so much, and to just bring everything back to simplicity is that right there can help us realize ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So you're a vocal coach, and you have mentioned demonstration on this podcast, which I'm super excited about. Would you like to dive into what that looks like and maybe give us a coaching session on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I am going to take a moment just to say what I showed up with this morning for my people in the broadcast that I have. It's called Fire Song, and that link will be available if anybody wants to join it. But what that is, me channeling whatever comes through my voice, through words, through song, whatever. And that's my soul expression. And what I told my people today is to show up imperfect. And this is a big thing for a lot of people, especially people like you or me who are becoming entrepreneurs, becoming coaches, being seen in an online space. A lot of the fear around starting in the first place comes from feeling like we have to be perfect. I don't like my voice, things like that. I'm afraid to press record, or what if I screw up? And I'm just coming off of a week-long cough and cold, and my voice is not 100%. And today I felt so inspired to sing anyway that I had to do it. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about embodiment. Like, you have to follow the soul's calling, even if it's imperfect. So there's a message and a lesson in that, but also a caveat that if I'm a little bit froggy or hoarse, we're going to be forgiving, because it's going to sound and feel the way it's meant to, because it's coming through at a time when it's meant to.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, let's get into it. So what I will do first, I do this work when I do workshops and that sort of thing. This is very foundational work. Again, a program that I have that's foundations. It's called Unlock Your Voice. And this was where we start with just very basic understanding of the self and the mechanisms that make your voice. And not everybody knows or understands this. If you have some sort of practice around chanting or toning or even breath work or your meditation, you will have some awareness of, say, your breath or your lungs or your belly, or the breathing mechanisms that make up that part of our voice when we sing or otherwise use it. So that's where I like to start. And just one second here while I cough. So the first thing we'll do is just allow yourself to become aware of your body wherever you are. Try and be upright and give yourself lots of space. When it comes to our breathing apparatus, we have our chest cavity, we have our lungs, we have our diaphragm, we have our belly. If we're scrunched over, we're basically crumpling the bag, and that doesn't give us space for the air. So we want to be upright, but in a nice, relaxed position. And the first thing we do is we bring our shoulders up to our ears and roll them back and down. And that's just to give a nice little relaxation and open up the chest. Now, if you were to take a deep breath and just feel where it goes, just being aware of the sensation and letting it out easily, noticing, is your chest rising? Is your belly expanding? Are your ribs expanding? And I'm going to give you like the really quick version of this, because this can be an hour or 2 hour long masterclass. So we're going to take a breath into our chest and just recognize how that feels, and out. And then try and bring your breath down to your belly and expand your belly. And even that can be hard because a lot of us are so used to holding it in. And again, this isn't about judgment. It's just about awareness at this point. And then I like to put my hands on my rib cage so that you can feel it. Now take a really deep breath, as deep as you can. And how does that feel in your ribs? Do they expand, or are you still breathing into your chest? And typically we do breathe shallowly when we're not thinking about it. And so that's one of the reasons why breath work and meditative breath work is so good for us, because we empty the stagnant air out of the bottom of our lungs, we breathe deeper, we get more oxygen, more nutrients into our bloodstream. So let's take together a deep breath, nice and slow, where we will try to expand into our chest, our belly, and our ribs. So nice and deep, and it might feel weird. Felicia, why don't you come off mute for a second and just explain that feeling that I'm seeing on your face?
When you said to notice your ribs, it was crazy because I did notice that I wasn't expanding my rib cage. And so then when I took another breath to expand it, I was like, oh my gosh, I am like holding it in. And then when you said to do all of them, I just started laughing because I was like, this is hard. Yeah.
And I take it for granted because I've been doing this work my whole life as a singer. But unless you are a singer or maybe an athlete or somebody who's already aware of those mechanisms in your body, these are tissues, these are muscles. And if you haven't trained them, it can be challenging for sure.
Yeah. And I've done breath work where you're like, how you said, breathe into the belly and then breathe up into the chest. But yeah, like actually putting my hands on there and like feeling that, It was so different, and then to breathe into both, it's just like you said, being more aware of those mechanisms in your body that we often are just so unconscious about because we're just breathing. And another thing I want to mention is when you said breathe into the belly, you often hold it in. That's spot on. Like it is something a little uncomfortable to push your stomach out, especially as I don't want to speak for all females, but especially as a female, it's almost like we're always told to like suck that in. And so to push it out, it was a little uncomfortable for me, even though I'm in this room by myself.
Yeah, it's just become subconscious. It's just how we hold ourselves after a point. Yeah, a lot of this work is so simple, yet can have a really profound effect. So I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I'm going to get you to hum. Okay, so we're going to take just a normal breath, and then we're going to hum. And I'm going to hum with you, and don't feel like you need to hold it as long as me or match the note or anything. Just hum naturally and feel it in your body. Okay, just notice, how does it feel? What are the sensations? Where do you feel it? Okay, so let's take a breath, and I'll get you to tell me what you felt and where.
So first I like felt it, the vibration in my nose, it tickled. And then I felt it start to go down through my face and then into my chest. And then I was just like still trying to like feel it out within my body. But the first sensation I had was that like tickle in my nose.
Yeah, okay. So let's do one more, and you can feel again and see if you can get a little bit more information this time.
Okay.
So take a breath in.
Okay. That time I felt it more in my throat, almost like my throat chakra needed to be more open. A little bit of almost like energy coming up through that area.
Okay, good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit more work around the musculature.
Okay.
And so start by just a really quick little movement around the jaw, like a little bit of a jaw massage. You can open and close. This is an exploration, right? Where am I holding tension? Is it uncomfortable to do this? And I don't want you to push yourself into any pain or discomfort, but notice. And that's the first step, is awareness, right? And then down your throat, gently on the sides of your throat. In my case, I'm feeling how I still have a little bit of inflammation from having been sick. Things like that. You might notice that you're holding on to lymph. You might notice neck tension from posture, from stress, etc. And again, this is the tip of the iceberg of the work we do, trying to fit it into a really short amount of time, right? But awareness is so key. So are you noticing anything in your throat? You can very gently palpate side to side. You don't want to crush anything under your chin. And you can feel, if you just make some sound, make your sound and go, you can feel your tongue and the vibration. And if you speak and just say, my name is Felicia, you can feel those muscles moving, right? Is there tension in your tongue? Are you holding your tongue? Are you clenching your jaw? So these are all physical indicators of not using my voice, not speaking my truth. And tensions in the neck, this can be stress, this can be posture. And we hold so much in our bodies of our general everyday dysfunction, of our trauma, of our wounding. We hold so much in our bodies. So this is just the beginning of the work of helping to release some of that. And like you said, like you might from the very beginning go, oh, I'm not used to letting my belly be soft and expand. I've had people who I just went go, and they could not feel heard that way. Yeah, so it can be so foundational. Okay, so we're going to do one more thing. Now, if you drop your jaw and put your tongue forward to the back of your teeth and see if it feels relaxed or does it feel tense. You can give yourself, again, a little bit of a massage or back and forth on your jaw. And now we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to roll our shoulders up and back and down again. Make sure that we're open. Feel like you've got a really nice open and upright posture. And now you're going to open your mouth, drop your jaw, nice and relaxed with your tongue toward the back of your bottom teeth. And now you're going to hum with your lips closed. So keep that open mouth on the inside with your lips closed. And you can probably feel how it feels a little bit unnatural. If you hummed the first time, as most people would who don't have this kind of awareness or practice, your mouth was probably fairly closed. But now we're creating a space inside. We're creating that open cavern behind the closed lips. And we're creating more space in the front, in our chest, in our ribs. So now we're going to, this is a lot of things to think about at once. This is why it's a practice, right? So we're going to take that deep breath in to the chest, the belly, the ribs. And now we're going to hum, and we're going to do this another time because I'm telling you too many things to remember all at once. And then we're going to hum again with that open space, jaw down, tongue relaxed, lips closed, and hum like that. So we're going to create more air. We're creating more space. And if you find yourself yawning or even crying, sometimes this is just a release of stuck energy. And then we're going to hum, and you're going to notice the difference. Okay? We'll do this a few times because there's a lot to think about, and I don't want you to be overwhelmed in what's going on in your head. So try and keep your shoulders relaxed as you take your breath in. So deep breath into the chest, the belly, and the ribs. Mouth relaxed, jaw dropped, hum. As you need to breathe, breathe, and let's do it again. Now, how did that feel?
That felt so much more expansive. And yeah, it was just so the first time I did it, I actually felt like more probably tension, intense. And this felt like more open, like you said. And I did yawn a little bit when we were like going, when you were saying there's a lot of stuff to think about. I was practicing it a little bit and I was like, oh, I like feel like I need to yawn. But I definitely, when we were doing the massaging of the outer part of our jaw and kind of down the neck, I did feel a lot of tension in there. And it felt like I was holding that tension on the first hum. And then the second one, I did feel like it was more open. And I felt like my hums in my head felt a little bit more fluid and softer and nicer. Yeah, it was a nice version, even though it felt awkward at first.
Yeah, it's going to feel a little awkward. And just like the belly release, these are not things you're used to doing with your body. And so it'll feel a little strange, but like everything else with practice and repetition, it becomes easier and more comfortable. So when it comes to vocalization, and I'm not just talking about for singers or speakers or whatever, this is all of us who use our voice. I've had people after a single masterclass where we work on this stuff come back and say, oh my God, I finally said that thing to my mother-in-law that I've been biting my tongue about. It's amazing how quickly this work affects your ability to express yourself. It's amazing.
That is awesome. I definitely am going to put links for your masterclass, and I want to check this out because just that little bit was like, wow, this is so awesome. And I love that there's teachers like you that are in the world that have these really unique, in my opinion, niches that maybe for you, because you're a singer, you're like, oh, this is just a lot of this stuff, maybe work that you've already done. But when you bring it out and you expand it beyond singing and you have it for people, like you said, that want to have their voice heard or speak up more or not hold themselves back, I think that's beautiful. And what an amazing work that you're doing in the world in this awesome, unique way. You're taking like this one universe and meshing it with the another in my head is like what's happening. And I think that's so awesome. And it's so beautiful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this foundational work I think can help absolutely everybody. And the deeper work that I do that involves more of my singing, more of the energy work behind it, because your voice is medicine. I say this to people. Your vibration when you hummed and when you tone or when you do anything with your voice with intention, with some of this awareness and practice this, your voice becomes your own medicine. It's frequency. This is vibration, like literal vibration, sound within your body. And you're using the air within your body. You're using the water within your body, like your blood, our vapor. We're using our bones, the earth. That's where I bring an earth element. Our bones are actual sound conductors. And Then we bring in the fire of our spirit. Like this is holistic, and
Mm-hmm.
this is medicine for you. And your voice, like my voice, can help you. I can do things with my voice that you will feel activated. We can move energy. We can do all this stuff. But your voice is your unique frequency. And as soon as you employ that, whether you think you can sing or not, it doesn't matter. I will often do these things in activations or in meditations, and I'm singing all over the place and making funny sounds and whatever else, because to me, this work isn't always about sounding pretty. And that's another thing that I had to get over as a lifelong performer. It doesn't have to sound pretty. It just has to work. And when you add your own voice to that, I invite people to hum along, sing along, make sounds, do whatever it is that you need to do, and feel it just flow out of you without thinking and without judgment.
Yeah.
Allow your voice to be your own medicine.
I love that. I went to a sound bowl training, and we actually, most of it, learned how to utilize our voice in sound healing. And it was so interesting to me because we went through the chakras with our voice, and it was crazy how much you can get from that. And I completely 100% back what you're saying, and I understand it in the standpoint of being actually embodying that and doing that practice. And I'm not saying that yours is anything like the sound therapy or anything, but I'm just saying that I understand how that can be really powerful. I do believe that is an energy frequency that we have in our bodies, and it's one way we can utilize energy to benefit, to heal, and to support us. And so I think that, yeah, what you're doing is so awesome. So I have one last question for you on this podcast, and that is, what does unleashed and aligned mean to you?
Unleashed, interestingly enough, is actually the title of my program that I have just launched.
Oh my God!
I didn't even knew that.
That's awesome.
And it's all about finding the fire that's within you, answering those questions of, what do I really want? What are my passions? What would I be doing if I could do anything at all? And aligning your action, again, with, it doesn't have to be an upheaval of your entire life. It can be a micro movement today, right now, in this moment, that takes you toward that. And when it comes to our energy, we are energy. Our soul is energy. We have a frequency. All these things have a frequency. And when we suffer because we are not in alignment, then the realignment is just using those things. It's like you asked, what do you do to get back into alignment? You just do the thing that you love, whatever that is. As soon as you're doing that, you're in alignment with your soul. And being in alignment with your soul enough that you do not feel stuck, you don't feel like you're grinding through life, that life is a chore, that you are now more joyful than not, you are making moves towards your passions or living your dreams. This is what unleashed is. Unleashed and aligned is everything that you are, without fear of judgment, without holding back, without playing small. Everything that I can be in the world. And I'm still working on it. It's not like we ever arrive. It's a journey. I have more to give. You have more to give. Unleashing is getting rid of whatever's in the way so that we can shine fully. It's less about becoming and it's more about unbecoming.
Yes.
We know at our core how to be this version of ourselves. It's in our DNA, it's in our codes. It's who we are. We just have to release, remember, remove, reprogram, realign, and then we get to be that bright, amazing version of ourselves.
So beautifully said. Jana, this has been such an amazing interview. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Is there anything that you're led to share before we close up?
Yeah, I just want to tell everybody that I've got so many things for you if you want to look at this work. I didn't really demonstrate it today, but I use my voice through really deep meditation and activations and channeling, and I would love people to be able to experience that. So I'm going to give you all the links so you can experience it for yourself and feel your own magic come through in your own vibration, in your own voice.
I am so intrigued by all of your programs and everything that you offer. We'll definitely put those in the show notes. Everybody go check her out and find your voice and start speaking up, start using it for healing. And Jana, thank you again for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review so that we can connect with more people to develop our mind, body, and spirit.